Which of the following is the graph of the polar function r equals f of theta, where f of theta is 3 cosine theta plus 2? In the polar coordinate system for 0 is less than or equal to theta is less than or equal to pi. So let me rewrite this function out. And you have to understand that these functions have to be written in the format of a plus or minus b cosine theta. So as you can see, we have to rearrange this. So f of theta is actually 2 plus 3 cosine theta, because it has to be in the format of this. So it's a plus or minus b cosine theta. So if you look over here, a is a 2, b is a 3. So in this case, a is less than b. If a is less than b, then we have an inner loop limaçon. So if you look at the pictures, this is not an inner loop. We don't see an inner loop here, so that's a no. And this one does not have an inner loop, so that's a no. And so it's either choice B or choice D. So the next part is to look at the formula and figure out what is the maximum out and what is the inner loop amount. So going back to the A and the B, what you do with the A and B, you add them. So 2 plus 3, that's 5. That's the maximum amount it goes out. So if you look at choice B, the maximum it goes out is right here. That is not 5. So that's wrong. And let's look over here. The maximum it goes out is 5. That's good. Now this inner loop is another focus. So how do you find the inner loop? Here we added to find the maximum out. And so what do? You subtract to get how much you go in. So that's the inner loop part. So going back to the picture, if you look over closely here, the inner loop touches at 1. So that is correct. Now, let me go over the other possibilities that can happen on your AP exam. So there's 3 main things that you have to understand when the A equals the B. Now, before that, you have to understand that cosine is left or right. So if you look over here, cosine is left or right. When is it on the right? When the cosine is positive. When is it on the left? When the cosine is negative. Now, sine is about up and down. When sine is positive, it is up. When sine is negative, it is down. And when A equals B, it's a cardioid. It looks like these pictures. Now, when A is greater than B, we call this a dimpled cardioid. But if I were to reword this, I would call it pimple. Because for me, dimple, it kind of goes inside your cheek, but it actually goes outside. So I would call it pimple out because the pimple comes out. So if you get confused, think of dimpled as a pimple. It comes out. So what does that mean? How do you know it comes out? That's when the A is greater than the B. As you can see here, 4 is greater than 2. So that would be a dimpled cardioid. So what you do is you do 4 plus 2, which is 6. That's how much it goes out. That's the max. And you can see here, that's how much it goes out. And now it always goes from the pole. That's the pole, like the center. And how much is the dimple or the pimple that comes out? That is 4 minus 2, which is 2. So that's the dimple part. And as you can see here, it comes out of the pole. Now, the inner loop limaçon, just like we did in the question above, this is when the A is less than B. So 2 is less than 5. So like we did before, what you do is 2 plus 5, which is 7. That's the max. That's the out. So as you can see here, we have it out at 7, but why is it -7? Because remember, like I said above, when you have a negative cosine, it's on the left. And here, how do you find the dimple part? You do 5 minus 2, which is 3. I mean, not the dimple, the inner loop. So this is how much from the pole it goes in. And just to review again, the sign here was positive. That's why it was up.